Hello, 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 and welcome back to another Minecraft Let's Play video with me, Elven Dragon. And you join me today over at the coal farm, where I am trying to get a bunch more wither skeleton skulls, so we can get a bunch more beacons, so we can finish off some more electric fences for extinct animal exhibits. Because we are moving out of the first age, because we are moving into the age of the dinosaurs. So there's a couple things I want to do over here before we really get started with building up our Triassic exhibits. And the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to remove this spawn chamber here and try really hard not to get shot by that ghast. Because unfortunately this spawn spot, which is right here, is a little too close to our AFK chamber over here. So we are going to need to move that so we can actually activate it from in our box in the center there. Now our other kill chamber is the one that I've been using, and it works just fine. It's actually a little far from the central area on a 4-chunk simulation distance, and I think we might get another one over here. I have to move the rail line further down. I think this one and this one should be good to use. Before we do that, we get to go in here. Hope there's nothing. Okay, good. Now what we're doing is we are going to be replacing... Whoa! Thank you, ghast. As I was saying, replacing these trap doors here with coral fans. Oh good, those instantly die here in the nether. Alright. Let's get rid of our trident so we can place one on the far side of that block. No, that's not what I wanted to do. We should turn this off. Okay, let's get this reset up here. Coral fan there and there. Rethrow that. Redstone back in place. Seal that back up. Put that on, and that should be good to go. So now we basically need to build the exact same thing right here, which shouldn't be horrible. We've done it once. We can do it once more. Alright, so we have another kill chamber here built up, and now hopefully that should start spawning stuff as well. And we should get double the amounts because we're using double the spawn spaces. Now I want to shift the chamber we have up here back because it is a little too close to where I want to have the AFK spot, so it doesn't actually spawn anything. And we might as well reuse the resources to actually make a working one. But I really quite like these little farms. They're not that hard to build, and this is much easier than hunting for wither skulls normally, especially for the quantities we need them in. And if you ignore all the ghasts that like to shoot at you, it's fairly safe. Ow. And the blazes, I still don't know where they're spawning at. Where did you spawn from? That I carpeted this whole area. Well, most of it. Anyway, as I was saying, you just need to move this closest one here over, so it's outside of the inner radius in which mobs won't spawn. And that should allow us to take advantage of 3 spawn spots at once. Oh, fires and carpet are so weird. No. I forgot that we left no floor on some of those. That was scary. Fortunately, we had our rockets on us. I often don't because I don't actually have a proper sugarcane farm that we have loaded often. Alright, I'm gonna go do that and hopefully not fall into the lava. Good, we got the piston though. I'll be back with you in a bit. And now if we flip this lever, that is unit number 3 complete. And we are still wondering, ow, where these blazes are spawning. Which, to be honest, it's not gonna matter soon because I am going to go cover this whole area with carpet. Because if they are going to keep spawning over here, even though I'm pretty sure I covered all of the spawn spots, then I might as well just cover the whole darn thing. And make it absolutely certain there's nowhere for them to spawn. Except, of course, in our farm, where we want them to spawn, because if they can't spawn, and we can't spawn wither skeletons. And we now have these 3 units in, and hopefully those should produce a good number of wither skulls for us. Should hopefully increase the production rate. I'm probably going to need a more sophisticated storage system than just a single double chest. But I will worry about that later. For now though, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of this orange wool and I'm going to carpet this area. Because I am sick of blazes spawning. And hopefully carpeting will make it so that we get more spawns in our spawn spots and help reduce the mob cap that's being taken up by random mobs wandering about. So I'm going to go take care of that and then I'll be right back. Alright, so now that we have the coal farm there fixed, we can move on to what we actually are getting into today, which is going and setting up our next exhibit, which is for the Triassic. So if we fly over the mountain here into the jungle, should be able to see where I have gone and marked out the area that we're going to be putting this. So I've got all 4 of the corners marked out. Just need to put in the walls and clear out the trees. So I'm going to go get that done and then I'll be right back. So while I work on building up the fence for this exhibit, I think this is probably a good time to talk about the just general information about the Triassic. So coming in the wake of the worst mass extinction in Earth's history, the Triassic has a lot of interesting groups. It took well into the middle of the period before life recovered its diversity that was destroyed during the extinction event. And from this, we get the dinosaurs, as well as the mammals, and the first flying vertebrates. Much of the climate was dictated by the existence of Pangaea, which made the climate mostly hot and dry because there was no moderating effect because all of the oceans were combined into one big sea known as Panthalasia. During this time, the seed plants came to dominate the terrestrial flora. So we see early conifers and cycads flourishing, and in the ocean, new corals appeared and started to form some small patches of reefs. These weren't super big compared to the systems that were in the Devonian or the ones that we have now, but it was quite a recovery. And the surviving lines of animals basically recovered and diversified into new forms to fill in the gaps in the ecosystem left by the mass extinction. But it still took about 30 million years for the complex food web structures to reform following the Permian-Triassic extinction event. Now, the end of the Triassic is also marked by an extinction event, but to a much smaller extent than the end of the Permian. No one is quite sure what caused this extinction, but there were several huge volcanic eruptions that occurred as Pangaea broke apart. So it's possible that the shifting climate caused by the breakup of the supercontinent helped cause the extinctions. But these extinctions were what allowed the dinosaurs to expand into many unoccupied niches. And following the Triassic, they become increasingly dominant and remain that way for over 150 million years. Alright, so we had run out of chains while working on this thing. Actually, I ran out of iron in this area, so I had to go back to the redstone pit to grab some. And we've basically got it all done. We just need to get the beacons, which is going to require a little bit more time AFK at the beacon factory, which, to be honest, isn't going to be that bad. This exhibit requires fewer beacons than the Permian exhibit, but there is one more thing I want to do before we start moving animals into here, and that is to build up a tank for 2 of the 3 groups of extinct reptiles that are commonly mistaken for dinosaurs and are often shown alongside them. So I guess I'll meet you all out at the bay, where we've been keeping our extinct animal tanks. So out here in the bay, I think I've decided that I want to put this tank right next to our Silurian exhibit. And I really need to light up the bottom of these things. Anyway, so I think what we're going to do is we are going to just jump right down here. And we're going to go diagonal for a bit. And, ow. Hello, drowns. This is why I need to light up this area. Anyway, we're going to go diagonal for a bit. That way we can avoid the underwater ravine, because I do not want to have to build a wall along there. So I think we're just going to build this up till we reach this high point here. And then we're going to go out and then just kind of follow the cliff edge here. And we're basically going to include the nice big flat area that's over here. Should be a big enough exhibit for what we want. So I'm going to go get that wall built up and finish planned out. And then I will be right back. Alright, so our tank here is built up. I did decide to shrink it a bit because I realized just how big our original plan was. So we still have the other part here that is marked out, which I'll probably use for another animal later on. But I think that this smaller tank here will be just big enough to put the two animals that I plan to have in here. And with that, all of our exhibits are built up. I did go and get the beacons to finish off the land exhibit. So it's about time we went and got the animals in here. Alright, so we have two marine reptiles out here in the bay. And the first one is the early plesiosaur relative Agustasaurus. Although not a plesiosaur itself, rather a member of a closely related group, Agustasaurus is considered to be an advanced form, showing many similarities to the plesiosaurs that would evolve by the end of the Triassic and radiate into many different forms throughout the Jurassic. Our other marine reptile that we have out here is the Ichthyosaur Shonisaurus. Ichthyosaurs were abundant during the Triassic and the Jurassic periods, started to decline and eventually went extinct by the end of the Cretaceous. Although not much is known about how ichthyosaurs relate to the other groups of reptiles, they evolved from a land-dwelling reptile into a fully aquatic animal, similarly to the way the modern-day whales and dolphins that they resemble evolved from a land-dwelling mammal that returned to aquatic life. Moving over to our land exhibit, our first animal is Lystrosaurus, a plant-eating theraspid, which is the group containing mammals and their ancestors. During the early Triassic, it was the most common terrestrial vertebrate based on the abundance of its fossils that have been found, accounting for 95% of all land vertebrates at one point during the period. It's thought that it is one of the earliest animals to be able to enter a state similar to that of hibernation. Its size ranged between about half a meter to 2.5 meters in length, depending on the species, and is thought to have been a powerful burrower. Our next animal that we have is Typo Thorax, a distant plant-eating relative to modern crocodiles. Unlike other members of its group, the Dinosaurs, it had large spikes on its neck as opposed to shoulder spikes. It is one of the earliest Jurassic vertebrates found in western North America and was about 2.5 meters long and weighed about 100 kilograms. Hyperthorax's front limbs were shortened and possessed several traits common to digging animals, which may suggest that it had some digging ability. Our final non-dinosaurian animal from the Triassic is the early turtle Proganochelys. Though not the earliest turtle ancestor known, Proganochelys held that title for well over a century until the discovery of Odontochelys in 2008. It is the earliest known turtle with a complete shell that has been discovered, as Odontochelys lacks a solid carapace, the top half of the shell. Proganochelys shares many similarities with modern turtles, including a lack of teeth, and its shell is formed in the same way from bony plates and its ribs. There is still debate, however, on whether or not it could retract its head in some form. Now, I think it's about time we introduce what is probably the main stars of this exhibit, the earliest dinosaurs. Our first of the earliest dinosaurs that we have in here is Eoraptor, known from several fossils, one of which is almost complete, that were found in the Valle de la Luna in northwestern Argentina. Eoraptor was only about a meter long and weighed about 10 kilograms. Its full name, Eoraptor lunensis, means dawn plunderer from the Valley of the Moon, reflecting the area in which it was found. It is thought to have eaten both plants and small animals and ran upright on its hind limbs, and because of the structure of its bones, it's thought to have been a fast runner. Our second early dinosaur is Platiosaurus. An early relative of the sauropods, Platiosaurus was an herbivore with a long neck, small head, and was between 5 to 10 meters in length. It walked on its hind limbs, had a short, strongly built forelimbs, which might have been for grasping food or for defense. So now that we have all of our animals in here, I think it's about time we add some plants into here, other than ferns. Try and make this look a little more natural and a bit nicer. Alright, so I have gone and done quite a bit of work over here. As you can see, I've added in some podzol and some coarse dirt into the ground here to give it more of a forest floor look. And to add to that forest look, I've added in several of our trees around the area. Nothing too dense. I didn't want it to be a thick forest, just a nice spread out one. I've added some of our cycads here, as well as a bunch of ferns to provide a little bit of undergrowth to the area. And I'm quite happy with it. I do kind of wish our trees and plants were to scale with our dinosaurs and such, but if I were to do that with our Eoraptor over here, only supposed to be about half a meter tall, it would be a little difficult. But beyond that, I think this is it. So I want to thank you all so much for coming. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and consider subscribing. And I will catch you all in the next one. Goodbye.